Right, good morning, welcome. This is Wisdom's Chats, but we are talking specifically the difference maker this morning. What is the difference maker? Who are difference makers? And why would we want difference makers in every city around the world? Well, these are some of the questions we are going to touch on this morning and hopefully give some answers, some insights, some thoughts, and perhaps even some reasons as to why you would want to join our difference maker movement, our worldwide initiative to make a difference around the world, in every city, in every town, in every suburb, in every community. Be part of it. It's an interesting initiative, it's an exciting initiative, and it's one that we're very, very passionate about. So Trevor, maybe you'd like to just give us some thoughts behind your reasons for wanting this difference maker in every city, and how you see it rolling out, and again, how people can get involved.
So for goodness sake, Ivan, have you got a day? There's so many different reasons for us to actually be doing this, especially at this particular time. What do we, almost the first quarter of 2022 gone past, and we just see troubles around the world. Troubles, for goodness sake. And I think, you know, what does difference makers in every city mean to me at the moment is, I mean, look at us. We haven't just got onto this planet in the last couple of minutes. We've been around this planet and around the block for a good couple of years. Some of us closing in on 70 years on this planet. So, you know, we've got a couple of t-shirts. We're a little bit long in the tooth. Some of us don't even have that tooth anymore. They fell out long ago. And we've seen a couple of things happen. And so, you know, I think the first thing for me is we have so much experience, especially the Wisdom's team, so much in the way of resources. We've met with men, you know, it must be well over 100,000 people that we collectively have actually met with, transacted with, had life-changing discussions with over the past, let's say 55 odd years of collective being in business. And I mean, there's three of us involved in that, in the Wisdom's team, our CEO, Lee Harrison, yourself, on the enterprise development side, that's Ivan Anderson, myself, Trevor Nell. Basically, I don't know what I am. I'm the chief coffee maker, broom sweeper, sometimes come up with a strategic decision or two. And I think we have over 150 collective years of life and business experience. And out of that, we've always maintained highly positive, you know, outlooks to life collectively as individuals. And we've all been affected in different ways by what life actually delivers up. And so for me, this difference makers in every city, just all of the people that we've met, and we've been into various cities, we've traveled around the world, we've done these sort of things, but we haven't even scratched the surface of the number of people in every particular city, in their leaders in communities. They may not even be leaders. Yeah, there you go, just have a look at it. People who have got far greater experience than we have got, that have got more t-shirts, that have got just great ideas. And I just think that this is a way for us to actually share our resources and stimulate others to share their resources to see what comes up. It's an adventure. You know, you might want to tap in on some of the adventures that we've had, but I think this is a fantastic adventure at finding individuals who have got similar objectives. They want to make a positive difference in the world, and to see what comes out of it. You know, for me, Ivan, and I think you all know, ever since the day dot, I'm the most useless technical individual you've ever met. And so you have to actually support me technically, etc. And I just think there are people out there that are so superior in understanding how to work this digital economy and all of these social media techniques. And we can be utilizing this to make a positive difference in the world, and to think about it, to prioritize it on a minute-by-minute basis, let alone a daily basis, let alone a weekly basis, let alone monthly. And that to me is just completely different to what I see coming into our lounges and wherever we sit watching TV right at the moment. It's just negativity, negativity, negativity. It is war, it is destruction, it is, no, come on, people, man. There's so much excitement if we put our resources together to make a positive difference in the world. So that's just a snippet of my feeling about this little adventure of a difference maker in every city in the world. And then it goes even bigger than that, because I have this internal vision that we're going to find people that are way smarter than us, got greater resources than us, and all of us are going to throw this into the pot to see what comes out of it. What does it mean to you, Ivan?
I mean, obviously you've touched on a huge number of elements there, but at the end of the day, you know, people need people, and people need, as you mentioned, you know, all this negativity. People need positive stories to inspire them, to look up to emulate, to follow. You know, and one of the other real things that I think this can do is it can take the ordinary person in the street, you know, somebody who thinks, well, how can I make a difference, you know? But as you said, they've got a story, and when they tell that story and people realize, but hold on, I can resonate with that, I can recognize, you know, myself in that, I can be inspired by that, and that starts to build, you know, the momentum, and that momentum grows and grows, and the stories will grow with it. But it doesn't mean you have to be this huge world-changing individual. Absolutely not. You know, some people will be, some people won't be. Some people will simply want to change the lives of those immediately around them, their closest family and friends, and that'll be good enough for them, and that's great. You know, that's perfect, because one of those people that they have an influence on will then go on to do something a little bigger, and they will have an influence on someone else who will go on to do something a bit bigger and a bit bigger. And eventually you'll get to those people who will change the world, who will make a real difference. And I don't mean to demean the person who's making a difference just in his little environment. He's making or she's making a real difference. But that ripple effect, that expansion of what happens, you know, people talk about the butterfly effect, you know, the ripples of a stone being tossed into a pond that move out and gain momentum and gain effect as they go out. This is what we're talking about. Let's start that movement. Let's start those ripples, you know, have the butterfly flap its wings and create a tornado on the other side of the world. Those are the kind of things we're talking about, and everybody can do it. And when people do these things, the benefit is just not external to them. The benefit, it becomes very much an internal benefit. People start to feel part of something. They start to feel value. They start to feel that they are valued, and that they have worth, and they have something to give. And I say that can be absolutely the smallest thing, but it could be massive. I mean, you know, you can go all the way up to the richest people in the world. You know, what difference can they make, you know? But the question is, how do you get to them to engage them in making a difference? Well, you start small. You start in your own backyard. You start with what you've got. You start with who you know. And that will grow and grow, and that will then start to gain momentum, gain attention, gain recognition. And as that happens, more and more people will become attracted to this, and that element of positivity, that element of really making a difference to those around you will just expand across the world. And that's the vision that we have here, is just that progressive growth of people just aligning themselves, you know, mentally, physically, spiritually, whatever it means to you, with whatever you've got to create this movement. And I think, you know, it can change the world ultimately. So don't think you can't, think you can. Think, how can I, and what can I do to actually just start that ripple in my own backyard, in my own household, and you could be amazed as to where it takes you and takes us. And then I think that's what we're really looking to do, to engage with people who want to do that. And I think ultimately deep down inside, everybody wants to do that. You know, people want to feel that they're part of something bigger than themselves, part of something that recognizes their value, recognizes their contribution, and recognizes them for who they are, a unique individual who is part of something bigger than themselves. And yeah, I think that's what our vision entails. That's what it encompasses. And we hope that you watching this will want to become part of that and really join with us in making this process happen. Yeah, so those are some of my thoughts, Trevor. Yeah, as you say, we could probably go on for days with this, but
yeah,
you know, hopefully it's giving some insight into the, you know, the thought that's gone into it, the desire, the passion that's behind this, the motivation, you know, that we have, and the way we want to make that available to engage with people worldwide. It doesn't matter who you are, where you are, what language you speak, what culture background you have, what belief system you have. It doesn't matter. You know, everybody wants to be part of something bigger than themselves, I believe.
There are two things as you were talking that came out for me that I want to explore a little bit further, Ivan, if you don't mind. One is for you just to think through my own admission to being highly incapable from a technical perspective. That I mean, you've been around all the time, and this constant refrain of mine that, man, we've got to find people around the world that are way smarter than I am in creating, you know, lighting a spark, then fanning the flames, and then, you know, letting it grow, you know, taking over the world, you know, like a forest fire or a wildfire, as it were. Just if you can perhaps share from your perspective how you assess my continual frustration over, geez, how long have we been together? It must be decades. Maybe if you can expand upon that. And then the other thing, as you were talking about, you know, we're very much into end objective. Always start with an end in mind. And in this particular project, I don't have an end in mind. Do you have an end in mind? And if you can explore that. So first explore my own frustration in terms of my lack of technical ability, and why I'm always on the search for people that know more than us and have greater skill than us that can actually contribute to a bigger objective, just from your perspective.
No, I think in some ways, for me, it's not a question of people who know more than us. I think, like I said earlier, everybody is unique. Everybody has unique skills. Everybody has unique abilities. Everybody has a uniqueness that they can contribute to something larger than themselves. Nobody has everything. And I think that's the point that for me, that you actually get into there. You have a skill set. You have, you know, innate abilities that are uniquely yours, that makes you who you are, and gives you the ability to contribute in the way that you can. And for you to try and be something that you're not doesn't add value to the situation. So what you need is then to surround yourself. And when I say you, I'm talking about all of us. I'm talking about every individual on this planet. If you can surround yourself with the right kind of people, with the right skills, with the right knowledge to fill in the gaps that you don't have, you create a whole. you create something that is much bigger than the sum of the parts that are making up that whole. Because you get this exponential multiplier effect as you bring in, you know, that skill and this skill and this ability and that ability, and it just morphs into something that is just potentially massive. And so I think, you know, one of the challenges that I see that has been developing in the world over the last, let's say, since about 1994, I think that was more or less when the internet was brought into the public domain. So if you go back then, what that has done to society as a whole has created a bunch of individuals. It's created a bunch of people who have been conditioned to believe it's about me. And it's me and my and I and look how good I am, and, you know, watch the video of my cat, and you know, here I am sitting on top of, you know, some mountain, and look at the beautiful view behind me, and you know, am I not great? And because of the fact I've been here, but it's individualistic. And I don't believe as a species we were designed to be individualistic. I think as a species we were designed to be a group of highly competent, highly intelligent beings that can create this society, if you like, a community that actually has the ability to do so much more than me as an individual. And I think there's a deep yearning within all of us to be part of something that's bigger than us. And it's getting back to recognize that. It's getting back to becoming part of that and saying, well, you know, Trevor, you might not have the technical skills, but I do. So let's put them together. I might not have your strategic or your visionary skills. So let's bring those into what I've got. And somebody else will have, you know, some other skill that can add additional value into, and so on and so on and so on. And I think that's, you know, it's almost coming back to, you know, I said 1994 earlier, but if you come back to, you know, even prehistoric times, you know, the ability for each individual in a community to contribute what they were capable of made that community functional, made it successful, made it, you know, have the ability to grow and expand and to move. And it's almost using that concept of barter, if you like, in a way. It's, you know, let me trade my skill for your skill, and your skill for my skill, so we can, or my, you know, potato for your chicken. It doesn't really matter. It brings a wholeness to a situation, which I think has become increasingly fragmented since the start of the internet, and the drive I see from social media, from mass media of all kinds, continues to pervade that fragmentation. And I think that creates dysfunction. And that's what we're seeing around the world at the moment. We're seeing huge amounts of dysfunction within communities, within societies, within countries. And I think if we can bring people back together into this idea of functioning as a community, as a society, as a country, things can be fixed, things can be changed. You know, it's not up to the politicians, it's not up to the leaders, it's not up to the millionaires and billionaires, it's up to the people on the ground. And if enough people on the ground come together, the rest of the people will need to fall in line, because the power that is created by a cohesive, like-minded community that wants to make a difference will be an unstoppable force. And I think that's really, you know, where I see things going.
You used a word there which just had me thinking as you were talking. You used a word there, it brings a wholeness. When people bring their individual skills that are unique skills together, it brings a wholeness. And, you know, I wear a cap that continues to remind me that we've got to be bigger than 10 times exponential, which is a popular sort of saying, and I love it. And I just thought, well, why limit ourselves? Let's go to 20x. And then, I'm waiting to see the guy who wears a 50x cap and a 100x cap. And, let's think bigger than the sum of the parts. And that word wholeness for me, as you were talking about communities who brought the individual skills together, is I think, what we're exploring here. And underlying that is the word leverage, that when you bring these individual skills, you have this leverage factor, which gives you an exponential end result. So you can really change the world with the little things that you actually do. And you started off with that. You don't have to have great big ideas. You can have stepping stone ideas. You can have sparks that start something going, and a group of 3, 5, 10 people get together and they start fanning the flames. I love watching these survivor programs and Naked and Afraid, where they throw them into the middle of Africa where the sun shines all day and they realize it's blooming freezing cold at night, and they try and light a little spark, and then they try and fan this thing to get it off the ground. And it's all about fire. That if you want to survive, boy, you got to fan those flames. But then
sorry, let me just jump in there, because it's not all about fire. Yes, fire is the pivotal thing that keeps them going, but it's all about those who actually come together to create the fire, and then what they do around the fire. And I think that's
also mindset.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You see the people with the what we would like to think is the right stuff, or the right attitude, or the positive mindset, as opposed to those who have a completely negative mindset, and you see what happens to them. But that so as you were talking about this leverage factor, which works extremely well in bringing those individual components in society together to make a bigger whole. And clearly what we're actually doing here is just showing how we can get into discussions, because discussions can then start, they can become that little spark of something that we didn't even think about. And we work with these things of keep things as simple as 1, 2, 3. I mean, that's our history. So we try and simplify everything down to, okay, what makes things work, and what makes big ideas get off the ground. But before we come to the end of this thing, I want you to I brought up this thing of normally, who was it? Stephen Covey. I mean, he had that lovely chapter, Begin with the End in Mind. Do you remember that? And I think that was probably about the time you go back to 1994. I think he wrote his book there about the late 80s, Begin with the End in Mind. And he was spot on. But in this project, personally, I don't have an end in mind. So how do you interpret that? This is one of those projects where we haven't actually mapped it out from beginning to end. So how do you interpret that? What is your thought about it?
I think we do, but the end is actually just another step in a bigger process. So the initial end in mind that we visualized was 1 million difference makers around the world, one in every city, one in every suburb, and obviously if you go more granular than that, 1 million becomes a drop in the ocean. So but that's our first end in mind, if you like, is to have 1 million people as part of this movement globally. But then for that to take the next step, and once you've got 1 million, you can have 5 million. Once you've got 5 million, you can have 50 million, and that gets into your exponential growth sort of strategy, as you were talking about earlier. And people say, well, 50 million, that's massive. Well, we've got 8 billion people on the planet. 50 million is a drop in the ocean. It literally is. But 50 million people around the world who are like-minded, who are buying into a common idea of being a difference maker in their community, in their suburb, in their city, in their country, will create a movement that becomes unstoppable. And I think, if we can create a movement that becomes unstoppable in the world, the end in mind is a much better world for everybody. So for me, that's the direction this is heading. What does that picture look like? Well, none of us really know. There's people who want to go and live on Mars. Well, quite frankly, that doesn't really interest me very much. I'd rather live in a beautiful place like we do, Trevor. I mean, this country that we live in is absolutely magnificent. I mean, it is probably one of the better places in the world to live, from an environment perspective, from a climate perspective, from an opportunity perspective. But it needs change. It needs difference makers. It needs people to take control of their environments, of their livelihoods, of their cities, and not sit back and wait for the powers that be to dictate. Because that's what's happening in the world at the moment. The powers that be are dictating what the man in the street can do, can't do. I mean, I was watching a program the other night about people who have abandoned mainstream society and living and gone to live in the wild. And in this one particular episode, these people had gone to live in the wild. But guess what? They had a 4-year process to get planning approval to build their house on their wild piece of ground. I mean, it's
so freedom is not really freedom, right?
Exactly. So and then on top of that, once they got that approval, they had to meet certain objectives over a 5-year period. Otherwise, they had to take it all down again and go back to the city. Really? And I mean, these people are living off grid. They over 50% of their food they're growing themselves. They're creating their own gas. They've got solar power. But now they've got to comply with all these restrictive rules and regulations. Otherwise, they've got to dismantle it all. And the comment that my wife made to me as we were watching this, she said, but here are people that are doing the right things. They're moving in the right direction. They're self-sufficient. They're sustainable. But they've got to comply with all these things. What about the big corporations that are trashing the planet? Why don't they have the same thing? Meet these requirements, otherwise dismantle your entire business. Take it away. No, that might sound extreme, but at the end of the day, that's what it's about. It's about creating a better environment for everybody to live in. And whether that's a mental environment, whether that's a physical environment, whether that's a spiritual environment, that's up to you as the difference maker, you as the individual. What is that environment that you would really like to live in? What does it look like holistically, not just, the bedroom that you sleep in, or the lounge that you sit in and watch your TV if you have a TV, or the piece of wild somewhere in the world that you want to inhabit and be completely sustainable and all the rest of it, or your dream island. Some of us have this idea about going and living on their own dream island, and that's great. That there's nothing wrong with that idea. The question is, what makes that happen? How do you actually bring that desire, that vision, that ambition to life? And it's not just for me, it's for those people around me. It's for my community, it's for my family. How do I make a difference? And that's where I think we're heading with all of this.
Yeah, I think it just reminds me, I sent both you and Lee a little text that for me, we banter lines or hooks that we'd like to hang our caps on. And that one of the lines is that wisdom's difference makers is about finding a way to leave the world in a better place for people to live in. So it's these type of hooks that we look to develop. But you know what? I'm looking at the time. 30 minutes have gone past. What are the technical aspects of how people can get involved with us? And what are we going to do on a weekly basis to actually keep the spark going? and fan in the flames. Ivan, if you've got a 1, 2, 3 that you can recommend to folk.
Absolutely. So, the first thing to do is to go to patreon.com/wisdoms123. It'll be scrolling on the bottom of your screen here, so you don't need to write that down or remember it. But click on that link. Go there. Go to Patreon. And look at look at what we've got to offer there. Sign up. You can sign up simply for $1 a month, as easy as that. If you just want to be that spark that kicks off this initiation. If you want to take it a bit further, there are different levels and opportunities for you to get connected with us. You can also go to our website. It's wisdoms123.com. So we try and keep it simple. As Trevor said earlier, there's a 1, 2, 3. It's a 1, 2, 3 process, and I think that's what it is. Take that first step, take the second step, take the third step, and away we go. So connect with us, get involved. We'll be running sessions like this on a weekly basis. We're going to keep them short and sharp, and hopefully engage with more and more people as we go along, and become part of the process. And that's all it does. That's all it takes. Take that first step, connect with us, become part of the process, and let's get those ripples going. Let's get those sparks starting to develop. Let's get the fire moving and generate the warmth and the heat, because I think it brings both. So we want to generate warmth for ourselves. We want to generate heat for those that are on the other side of the fence. They must understand this is happening, and this is the start of the process. So we'd really love you to get involved. Look at the details on the bottom of the screen. Sign up, join us, and start contributing. Be part of the process. Be part of the difference makers in every city around the world. That's where we're heading with this. So we'd love you to join us. We'll be back same time, same place. Currently South African time, so that's GMT +2 or UTC +2, 8 a.m. Every Wednesday, we'll be online here. Become part of the process. Hope to see you then.
What the world needs now is
I'm a difference maker. I'm a difference maker.